Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Northeast River Forecast Center Winter Spring Outlook. This morning, I have Rob Shedd and myself, Ed, here. And we move towards our first slide here of the set I sent out with you. You'll see that our entire area, summit to sea, is encased in a nice white cover of snow, and in some areas on the coast pretty deep. And we're pretty well iced up here. As we go and look in a little closer on the top graphic on the false imagery from MODIS, we can see that the eastern end of Erie is all iced up. Lake Ontario is still open, so lake effect will continue. Oneida in the upper right is iced, and the Finger Lakes, the northern and southern end of them, are starting to get iced up. And 2 weeks from now, it'll be interesting to see how much ice is in the Finger Lakes with the cold weather we have coming. Lower left, you can see the deep area of Lake Champlain west of Burlington is still open. And of course, in southern New England, you look at the Wachusett Reservoir, Quabbin, Scituate Reservoir, all iced up. Part of the satellite imagery that we saw this past blizzard of 2015, taken from the Polar Project, the Suomi NASA Polar Project with the VIIRS imagery, the blizzard. It's combining the day-night band with the high-resolution infrared imagery. What was interesting here is during the height of this blizzard, at 2 o'clock in the morning, when Boston was reporting heavy snow, you could see the lights from the city through this cloud cover. And these imagers and sensors are going to be on the new GOES satellites that will be launched in about a year from now using. Thought it was an image of interest. As we look back to the last 2 weeks, we were talking about how cold and snowy it was, and it really was. Our river ice formation continued with a couple of more freeze-up jams. The blizzard of 2015, as we discussed. Snow depths have increased, with snow water equivalents increasing dramatically across eastern New England. And precipitation in that area was 1 to 3 inches above normal. And on the coast of Maine, 3 inches above normal in the last 2 weeks for precip. And there were reports of 55 to 60 inches of snow on the ground in Eastport and Machias, Maine. Further inland, the precipitation was normal to slightly below normal in the Connecticut Valley, westward, the Finger Lakes region in northern New York. As we look at our snow conditions, the top left map is a color image of the snow, top right, the snow water equivalent. And of course, I mentioned these have increased in eastern New England, and the dark blue greater than 24 inches showing up, with many areas still having 30 to 45 inches of snow on the ground this morning. Upper right-hand corner, the snow water equivalent image, 3 to 5 inches of snow water equivalent in the Boston area, northeastward into eastern Maine. And we'll be showing you a little simpler graphic of this in a couple minutes. Left graphic, all the snow water temperatures are below 32 degrees, so no melting. The lower center is the density of snow, which is basically less than 25% across the whole area. And of course, on the lower right, there's no melt expected, so that image is showing all gray. We have put together this map for the last 2 weeks of snow water equivalents in the Northeast. The top map is of yesterday, and the bottom is the 2 weeks ago map I showed. You can see how the snow water has definitely increased in the 3 to 5 inch range in much of southern and eastern New England, 5 to 8 in the hills of western Maine into the Green and White Mountains, 3 to 5 in the Adirondacks, 3 to 5 east of Erie. All of these are showing a slight increase to a moderate increase in snow water equivalent in the last 2 weeks. Our current USGS stream flow and groundwater conditions, the upper left map, of course, there are many gauges not reporting because they're iced up. Many gauges in the area are iced. Where they're not iced, we have basically normal flows. And the groundwater, normal groundwater conditions, except showing some lower than normal groundwaters in western New York. And our upper right map is showing the current river conditions with many ice gauges, as mentioned. Water supply conditions, the New York City water supply system, which includes the Delaware and the Croton Ashokan-Skohari system is about 9% below normal this morning. And basically the rainfall has been slightly below normal the last 3 months, plus they have snow water equivalent, so the water's locked up in the snowpack. Quabbin Reservoir is operating normally. Scituate is about normal, about a half a foot higher than it was 2 weeks ago in the normal range. And Lake Champlain right here is showing at normal level for this time of year. Soil moisture, river ice thickness, and frost depth on this slide. We have normal to above normal moisture conditions, especially in coastal New England. Ice anywhere from 5 to 20 inches, frost 5 to 20 inches in the area. And the river ice thicknesses from January through now, the accumulated freezing degree days are normal to above normal. The graphic I'm showing you on the right is taken from our CHIP system. It's an experimental graphic showing the freezing degree days at gauges correlated with the Correll Co-Regents Lab equations for ice thicknesses on rivers and lakes. And you can see that there is some correlation with this as we're experimenting with it. Northern Maine, up to 2 feet of ice that we're carrying in some of the gauges. And here in southern New England, we have anywhere from 3 to 6 inches of ice at some of the gauges. So we'll be looking at this through the rest of the winter to see how it provides some better information for us in places we have nothing on river ice thicknesses. We have several ice jams in place for the West Branch, Chesterfield, Mass., the Aroostook and St. John, as there was 2 weeks ago. The Allagash River, we've noticed there's 10 foot of ice walls at Allagash. As frost depths, I've mentioned, are anywhere from 5 to 20 inches. And the snowpack temperature, we had a gauge that said 25 degrees this morning at the bottom of a 2 foot snowpack, which is very similar to NORIS modeled snow temperature. That's encouraging. Looking ahead, the theme again is cold and snow. Maybe colder is a more important thing than the snow coming up, but week 1 we're expecting below normal temperatures and normal precipitation, except across coastal New England, possibility of above normal precipitation. And week 2, basically the same thing. Again, we'll be watching coastal developments, and I'll show you how we think the Gulf moisture is somewhat limited the next 2 weeks. Our 48-hour QPF shows some precipitation moving from the eastern lakes, the band eastern lakes into eastern Massachusetts, which is along and north of the boundary that's setting up. And the 7-day precipitation product from WPC is showing this band of heavier precipitation along the border states into southern central New England. As we look at the teleconnecting patterns, as we talked about before, the North Atlantic Oscillation has been mostly positive this winter. So in a positive situation, we usually see the composite temperature anomalies a little warmer than normal. But a few of the members are showing neutral, so in that case, the composite February temperatures are a little colder than normal. So I'm going down this road to show you where we think how the cold is getting into the Northeast. The Pacific North American pattern is shifting positive. Ridge in the west, more trough in the east, and the corresponding composite temperatures in the Northeast are normal to slightly colder than normal. Well, one of the overlying principles for the Eastern Pacific Oscillation is in the negative phase, this oscillation will, as I show the hemispheric view in the upper left corner. That phase will pump higher than normal heights up into the Alaska and Canadian coastal areas. And the temperature regime, correlation plot of temperatures from that negative EPO for February is colder than normal across much of eastern USA. The forecast for the EPO is to remain negative in the lower left graph through the 19th of February. And the temperatures we've seen the last 4 weeks, this graph here 2 weeks, and we're anywhere from 3 to 8 degrees below normal across much of the Northeast, especially in New York. The outlook for the 6 to 10 and 8 to 14 day is very similar to the maps we showed you 2 weeks ago. Ridge in the west, very warm, and trough in the east colder than normal, with normal to slightly above normal precip across eastern New England. If you take a look at the Gulf states, we anticipate below normal precipitation in the next 2 weeks in this pattern. And I mention that because it looks like not a lot of Gulf moisture is going to come north in this pattern. If we look at the surface weather map for Sunday the 8th, you can see this precipitation streaming from the border states into New England, snow, and a series of weak waves will be moving through here from Saturday through Tuesday, dropping snow in southern central New England. The upper level pattern is a west-northwest flow through this area. As we go out to the 13th, I want you to take I'm going to go back a couple maps here. I want you to take a look at this blue line here, the 0 degree, 850 or 5,000 foot temperature, and the minus 30 or minus 22 degree Fahrenheit temperature. And you'll see the 13th, we're getting the east part of the U.S. is being, cold air is being driven into the area much below normal. We've seen reports of maybe 25 degrees below normal coming up in temperatures, with the freezing all the way down to almost the Gulf states. And again, if we look at the pattern here at the 500 millibar level, you see this huge ridge in the west, and there's a cross-polar connection from Siberia through the high Arctic into the northeast, which is going to deliver the coldest air of the winter next weekend. And again, you can see the minus 30 Celsius at 5,000 feet is flirting with a lot of interior New England as low pressure develops in the Maritimes. How much we're affected by that right now is something to watch. Back on the 19th, and again, this flow from the high Arctic right into New England persists to the 19th. So 2 weeks, it looks like it's a very cold pattern. We will put out, and we are putting out, a daily discussion on Twitter and at times on Facebook. This was yesterday's. It basically shows the hydrometeorology happening in the area. So with all these things occurring, we decided to stay at normal to below normal for the potential flood outlook for the next 2 weeks. And we increased it to normal because the snowpack at SWE in a lot of the southern and eastern basins is now normal.